Folks, this is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates.
Folks, this is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates coming to you live from the crossroads of the West in Lake City, Utah. The time right now is 7:05 p.m.
It's barely clear on the backside of the sun, and the earth is located at the sun hitting the earth is located around 3.5 miles southeast of the earth now. The solar wind is also
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you might be on this earth of ours. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome all of you who are joining us tonight. Please, folks, as we've been doing in the past, we're going to start off tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance and the United States National Anthem. Would everybody please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the so
folks. Let them know it.
May God Oh man, I'm so sorry. Okay, Don, thank you. Now we have sound. So folks, I'm so sorry for that. Dadgummit, I didn't check to make sure that YouTube hadn't done that to us. I'm so sorry about that. Again, today in Wisconsin, there was another train derailment, this time alongside the banks of the Mississippi River. This was a scene on the right alongside the Mississippi today. I've shown you now two pictures, this one here and this one here. This is from an 18-year-old girl's car as she was passing by the Mississippi and the wreck. Okay? Let me go through this one more time as you folks never heard it. Okay? A train derailed alongside the Mississippi today at about 12:15 p.m. This is alongside the Wisconsin and northern Iowa border. Two locomotives ended up in the Mississippi River near DeSoto, Wisconsin. A train was derailed on the bluff side of the Mississippi River near DeSoto, near the border between Wisconsin and northern Iowa. This is south of the Lansing Bridge in Ferryville, closing a state highway this afternoon. Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway officials, the owner of the train, and General Director of Public Affairs Lena Kent issued a statement that the train derailed about 12:15 near DeSoto, which is about 30 miles south of La Crosse, and Kent explained that two of the three locomotives and an unknown number of cars derailed. The train was pulling all kinds of freight. There's a report that at least two of the locomotives are in the water, but I must say this right now. All my investigating that I have done shows no locomotives in the water at this point in time. That may change, as this is a developing story. Now we are approximately 5 hours in, well, almost 7 hours into this. Okay? The main track is blocked in both directions, and there's no estimate when the track will be reopened. One person received a medical evaluation, and all crew members of the train have been accounted for. Ms. Kent noted that the local first responders were on scene, and Burlington Northern Santa Fe personnel are also on their way. The cause of the derailment is under investigation. The Crawford County Sheriff's Office said that there's no need for an evacuation at this time. State Highway 35, State Highway 71 to State Highway 82 in DeSoto was closed. Local traffic was permitted to go to Ferryville. The Sheriff's Office said that they'd begun to coordinate with Burlington Northern Santa Fe, FEMA, Wisconsin Emergency Management, the state of Wisconsin and Iowa, and the National Transportation Departments and Crawford County officials, and Iowa Congresswoman 2nd District Ashley Hinson, whose district may also be impacted. They want answers, according to the Congresswoman. Congressman Van Orden, who is on the House of Representatives Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, and U.S. Representative Troy Nehls from Texas, who is the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee on Rail, has also made their staffs available. At 12:15 p.m. again, Wisconsin Department of Transportation said that all lanes of Wisconsin 82 eastbound and Wisconsin 35 northbound and southbound has been blocked in both directions near Ferryville. Wisconsin Department of Transportation has also provided alternate routes for traffic for motorists. I repeat, a Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway train derailed over in Wisconsin today, near the border with northern Iowa. That is the story, guys. As we have more information, we will relay that information to you as it becomes available. Now, I have another story that I want to talk about today. Okay? This is pretty much important. It's pretty important, period. This is over in the Azores in the northern Atlantic Ocean. This is Sao Jorge Island. Sao Jorge Island in the Azores. You'll notice, and we've talked about this previously, last year, we had a lot of earthquakes here. We're having a bunch of earthquakes now. An earthquake swarm started on the northwest part of the island on the 19th of March, 2022. More than 2,000 mostly small quakes of magnitude 1.6 to 3.5 had been registered within the first few days of activity. The swarm is likely caused by a magmatic intrusion. Magma intrusion underneath the island about 10 to 15 kilometers deep. This could indicate renewed eruptive activity in the future. There's also a risk of larger quakes occurring in this process. It's occurring again. A large seismic swarm has resurfaced on the island's northwestern rib zone, and it has actually decreased a lot during the past few days, but it is still at ongoing lower levels. Weak inflation, meaning uprise in the island. As lava comes into the volcano underneath the island, that usually occurs, or uplift usually occurs there. As the magma comes into the volcano increases in volume, which is raising the level of the island. Okay? Weak inflation has continued to be registered, which is the only official alert level that remains at the second highest level of V4. V4. Seho Hore in the Azores, seismic activity continues above normal levels, although right now it has decreased by an hourly frequency and magnitude. It is still ongoing. Again, since 19 March, at least 226 events have transpired there, and there's been no evacuation of the population. Yes, 226 events were felt by the population, but there's been no evacuation there at all. Okay? There's been a lot of people talk about it and sent me information, and I appreciate that. And now I've talked to you about that. There's something else that I want to there's several other things that I want to talk to you about tonight. Volcanoes. Volcanoes. Last week we talked about Shiveluch volcano in the Kamchatka Peninsula. Okay, in fact, let me bring out the USGS map for you so you know exactly where we're talking about. Okay, whenever I bring up this map, it always goes over here to San Francisco because we have a lot of activity in San Francisco. Go figure. What a concept, guys. What a concept. Okay, I'm going over here to Shiveluch volcano right now, so you're totally aware of what's going on. Okay, Shiveluch volcano erupted again today, this time up to 14,000 feet high, 4,300 kilometers high. Okay, altitude flight level is 140. The ash and the toxic gases are moving in a southwesterly direction at 15 knots. Okay, that's Shiveluch volcano. About a year and a half ago, actually 2 years ago, Shiveluch volcano erupted up to 85,000 feet high, up into the stratosphere. This time it has not. It's only erupted up to what did I say here? Up to 14,000 feet. That's almost nothing compared to the 85,000 foot eruption 2 years ago. USGS denied that eruption, and later they had egg on their faces after they had to admit that we here at EMA were right. Go figure, USGS. Anyway, there's more to this than even we want to go into right now. I'm going to go down to south of Japan. Okay, Suwanese-Ejima volcano, south of Japan, right here. Suwanese-Ejima volcano has erupted again, this time up to 6,000 feet high. Flight level 060. Okay, then we want to go down here into Indonesia, central Indonesia, guys, right here. right here. There's another volcano called Orangutan. We talked about Orangutan on Monday. Siau Island. I don't know how they pronounce that in Indonesian. Siau Island here in Indonesia. Orangutan erupted again. However, the eruption has decreased. Okay, that is now the latest information as of about 2.5 hours ago said that the eruption has all but stopped, or at least the lava has decreased in activity here at Orangutan volcano in Indonesia. Then I want to go back over here to South America. Good old South America here. Okay, what are we going to talk about now? Another volcano. Actually, it's not South America, Central America and Mexico. The first off I want to talk about here, over southeast of Mexico City. We have another volcano that all of you have been talking about for the last couple years. Popocatépetl, or Popo as they call it there. Popocatépetl has again been erupting today. It's continuously erupting, okay? This time it erupted up to 24,000 feet high, 7,300 meters high. Altitude flight level 240. The ash and the eruptive cloud is moving at 20 knots in a northwesterly direction. Northwesterly direction there at Popocatépetl. Now let's proceed south. I want to go over here to Guatemala. Right here in Guatemala. Okay, we have 3 volcanoes that have been erupting there. Cotopaxi, Santiaguito volcano, and Fuego. This time today, Fuego has also been erupting up to 16,000 feet high, 4,900 meters. Flight level 160. Flight level 160. Now, let's go over to northern Colombia here. Northern Colombia. Right about here, I believe, that's actually right here. Right here is the volcano. Okay? This is Nevado del Ruiz. Nevado del Ruiz. Okay? We talked about this the other day when Cotopaxi erupted. Cotopaxi was not expected to erupt. And actually, there was Cotopaxi, and then there was another volcano over in Costa Rica, and I don't remember the name of it. But the Costa Rica volcano and Cotopaxi erupted, and scientists were not even paying attention to that. They were paying attention to this volcano over in northern Colombia. This is Nevado del Ruiz. Okay? Explosive activity continues. It erupted again yesterday, and now it's erupting today. Okay? Officials from the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center in Washington have said that the ash plume rose up to 19,000 feet high, 5,800 meters, or flight level 190. Nevado del Ruiz, ladies and gentlemen, has erupted finally. Scientists have been waiting for this volcano to erupt. Okay? Let's move down here to southern Peru. Southern Peru, right down here. Okay? Sabancaya volcano has been erupting for quite some time. But today, ladies and gentlemen, it did us one better. Okay? The Volcanic Ash Advisory Center in Buenos Aires, Argentina, or Brazil, told us this. This is the first time in a long time that Sabancaya erupted up to 26,000 feet high. First time in quite some time that erupted up to 26,000 feet high. 7,900 meters high. Flight level 260, and the ash and the toxic cloud are moving in a northern direction at 10 knots. Okay? 10 knots. That's what's going on with our volcanoes, guys. It's wild. It's completely wild. I did not expect to be talking about Nevado del Ruiz. The last I had heard before today was Nevado del Ruiz was trying to erupt but had not erupted. But now we have word that it has erupted, and that's just fine. I'm glad that it has finally erupted and it did not cause major damage. That was what I was concerned about. The government of Colombia had taken steps to evacuate populations and towns over and around the mountain. This is a good thing. Nevado del Ruiz has not erupted in a very long time. The last time I think we talked about it was about 2 years ago. It has not erupted since, and that's a good thing. Now, there's more to these stories than this, okay? A lot more. Let's go over to the Mississippi River again. We were talking about the derailment of a Burlington Northern Santa Fe train. Well, while doing this research, we found out that the Mississippi River is flooding again. Remember just a few months ago, we were all worried that the Mississippi River was drying up and that we would be talking about no barges or heavy sea traffic taking containers and things and grain and stuff to the various places to unload to service the populations of the United States. Well, guess what? New information, guys. The Mississippi River is now overflowing its banks. Okay? Some residents are also starting to sandbag up and down the Mississippi River. But I wanted to show you this picture because the Mississippi River is now alive and flowing again. Thanks a lot to our rain that we received. Okay? This is a big deal. This is a huge deal. Just months ago, we were in a huge drought. The Mississippi River in a lot of places had dried up. Now it's alive and well again, fortunately. Now there's something else that I wanted to discuss with you tonight. Okay? Before we get into Cascadia, before I get into emergency planning, and we are going to talk about emergency planning to a great extent tonight. I've done a complete presentation. I've had it ready for quite some time, and tonight we're going to do that. But this picture here, this is actually an eruption on the sun. Another solar flare that launched from the sun Sunday night. At midnight, just about midnight, right here in the center of your screen, you see the sun here. And you see a solar eruption just below those words. Okay? This solar eruption was a M-class flare. An M-class flare. Whereas the other eruption that erupted on Friday was a lesser class, however it was a more powerful eruption. Okay? This is a moderate class, an M-class flare. Folks, we don't have too much to be worried about with this flare. Number one, the flare has already reached the Earth, and it's not doing any real damage. Yes, we have some interference on radios, ham radio, police, fire, and paramedic radios, and also air-to-ground communication with pilots in aircraft, and also with the International Space Station, air-to-ground between Houston, Russia, and the United States Space Station, or International Space Station. Sorry about that. It's the International Space Station. But again, this was another M-class flare that lit off Sunday night. Nothing to really be worried about. There is one guy on YouTube that called this a major eruption. It is not. This is not a major eruption. This is only an M-class flare. An R or an X-class flare would be a lot worse, especially an upper class or X flare. Okay? If it had been, for example, an X5 flare, we would need to be really concerned. So far we have some X1s and 2s already this year, but this is not that. The man on YouTube who is saying it was a major eruption was wrong. All he was doing was trying to get clickbait. People to come to his channel to figure it out what it was. But it was not a major eruption. I want to make that very clear. This was not a major eruption Sunday night. The one that happened on Friday was more so, because it was a more powerful flare. Okay? So anyway, do we have any questions about anything that we've covered so far? I'd be happy to take some conversation about that. Animals and humans in disaster says Beaver Dam went blank. That's wild. Richard Smith is reporting a 3.1 small quake in Southern California. That's not really out of the ordinary now. We're starting to see 3.1s, 3.5s, and 4s all over Southern California. Why am I even talking about this? Why is Richard talking about it? I'll tell you. And it's important. It's important because Southern California seismicity, the magnitude of earthquakes and the occurrence of earthquakes is increasing. We're going to get a major earthquake any time now in Southern California. And I fully expect the same thing to happen in Northern California in the Bay Area. Okay? So you'll know. Okay? Now Renee Steffi is also reporting a 3.9 in Hawaii. Let's go over to the USGS map again. Okay, I want to show you this. Okay, let's back out here. We can go over to Hawaii and talk about this. Not a big deal. Okay, and by the way, guys, this earthquake here in South America, it's a 5.0. This is in southern Chile. Southern Chile, and this happens to be on the western side facing of the Andes Mountains. Okay? This earthquake was a 5.0 large earthquake. And this was southeast of San Clemente, Chile. Southeast of San Clemente, Chile. Now this is San Clemente, Chile right here. This is a rather good sized city here. Okay? San Clemente, Chile. Okay? That was a 5.0. They say this is 9 kilometers southeast of San Clemente, Chile. I think it's a little bit further than that. But it doesn't matter. Okay? Because this was not that far from this city. And others here. There's another city down here, not quite as large. There are towns and cities all over this area. Okay? Anytime we get a large earthquake on land, there can be a lot of damage. Again, these homes are not superstructures like we would see in the United States. These homes are not made to be earthquake resistant. So there may be some damage and injuries here. We will wait and see what we hear out of San Clemente, Chile today. But again, USGS is not covering anything here. Look at this. Nothing else in Chile, and that's wrong. There's been 20 other earthquakes here in South America, up and down the coast of South America, but USGS says nothing. Literally nothing. One earthquake down here in the South Sandwich Islands today was a large 5.1. South Sandwich Islands are not occupied islands. Okay? It's too cold, and usually there's high winds and heavy surf and heavy snow and ice there. Okay, so those are uninhabited islands here. Let's go over here really quick to New Zealand. Why am I talking about this? This was a moderate 4.2 earthquake here. A moderate 4.2 earthquake. It just happens to be near a volcano. Yes, folks, there's a volcano right here. Okay? That's why I'm talking about it. And it seems USGS doesn't give a damn about what else is going on here. because there's been some other 3s and 2s all over this island. This is the North Island of New Zealand. There's been several earthquakes along the east coast of New Zealand here, North Island, New Zealand right here. There's also been a couple earthquakes up here near the Catcher's Mitt, okay, the Bay of Plenty. There's been an earthquake over here near Gisborne, New Zealand here, okay, another earthquake here. Earthquakes all over this island. Also on the South Island, a bunch of 2s, basically, up and down the South Island here. Over in this strait here, okay, in this body of water, there's been 2 2.5s, well, a 2.5 and a 2.9 here in the Cook Strait, okay. So that's what's going on here, okay. Going north into the Kermadec Islands. Remember that 7.4 we've had here earlier this week? Now we have a 4.4 moderate earthquake. This is only 38 kilometers deep. Not a big deal. Not really a big deal. Vanuatu had some smaller earthquakes today as well. Not a big deal there. Going over here into Papua New Guinea, okay, we had an earthquake here. This is a 4.7 earthquake, okay. This is not a big deal either. It's 59 kilometers deep. Over here in eastern Java, we have a 4.6. This is over near Sumbawa region, Indonesia. It's 149 kilometers deep. This is down in the upper level of the magma chamber down here beneath the crust of the earth. Okay? Yes, there's a huge magma chamber down there. We don't know how deep that magma chamber is, but there's a huge flow of plastic magma down there. Okay, this is over there. This is over there. Over at northern Sumatra today, this has been the first earthquake we've had here on land in quite some time. This is a moderate 4.6. This is 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. Really not a big deal, except it shook things up here. These people are not used to having earthquakes hit them on land. Today, a moderate 4.6 here. All it did was knock books off of shelves if they had books, knickknacks off of tables or bookcases, rattle pictures off of walls, that kind of thing. Now, folks, a 4.6 could do minor damage. If these people had any kind of home, it might not have been too much worry. But if this was a cardboard shack or a wood shack or something like that, they would really have something to worry about. Okay? I don't know what the population here is in this region. It was in the mountain region here. Okay? There is a population base over here. Okay? They may have felt this, and I'm sure they did. This is a good-sized city here. Okay? I don't know the population base. I haven't totally checked. But they probably felt that, but there was really nothing big about that earthquake. Just a moderate earthquake today. Okay? So that's what's going on there. I have some other concerns. Over here in Chile, we had a 4.4 here. Okay? Now this is nothing here. 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. This one here, I have other concerns about. Okay? This is north of Taiwan. Just north of Taiwan. This is a 4.9, 5.0 earthquake. This is nothing, guys. Look what I have to show you here. This is a 5.3 earthquake. A 5.3 earthquake. On the southeast end, we have a 4.6. Right next to it, another 4.9, 5.0. Then the 5.3. Then we go further northwest. Okay? We have a 4.5 here. These are Japanese islands. Japanese-owned islands. Okay? China is trying to take these islands as well. Okay? When China tries to take Taiwan, they'll probably try to grab these islands as well. Okay? But this 5.3 earthquake was real. If this had been in a known populated area, there would have been probably real good problems there. Okay? Because it was a big earthquake. A big earthquake here in Japan. Now over here near Honshu. This is a 4.3 near Iwaki, Iwaki, Japan. This is also 64 kilometers deep. A 4.3 earthquake. Let's go over here to Hawaii. To Hawaii here. Again, Renee was talking about an earthquake that just hit. Okay? We've had this 2.0 here. Right here. Okay? A 2.0 here. Over here is a different story. Okay, that was at Kilauea. Over by Kilauea. This is a different story here. This is a 4.2 near Pahala. Just off the coast of Pahala. Now, why is this a big deal? I believe we have a seamount here, right close to shore. We've seen numerous earthquakes hitting here. Okay, I believe this is magma induced. As magma comes up from the South Pacific, let me draw backwards out of Hawaii for just a second. Let's go down here deep into the South Pacific. Okay, I want to go down here. Right over here we have New Zealand, right? Well, out here between New Zealand and South America, we have a deep magma plume coming up from the center of the Earth. This magma plume goes through the crust of the Earth, and it goes to all the volcanoes around the world. Here in Hawaii, this magma plume goes to Pahala. It goes right to Pahala. This magma plume at Pahala distributes the magma around the island to all the volcanoes on the island. Okay, again, this 4-pointer here, this 4.3, was probably magma going to an undersea mount volcano. Okay, but needless to say, when magma comes in here, it causes earthquakes, doesn't it? Absolutely it does, as we've seen around the world at all the volcanoes. Okay, but magma comes in here to Pahala, and you can see the other swarms here. Further south here, for example, here is a 2.0. There is a 2.4. Further north here, that's a 2.1. Magma comes in here to Pahala, and Pahala distributes the magma to the various volcanoes on the island of Hawaii. Okay, now let's go up here to Kilauea. We told you about one of the earthquakes that just hit. Okay, this red one, for example, this one's a 2.0. Okay, right here is another 2.0. This is just south of Kilauea. Now, Kilauea volcano is in a crater called Halemaumau crater. So all of these earthquakes are magma coming to this crater, coming to Kilauea volcano. Okay, every one of these earthquakes right here are headed to Kilauea. The magma is. This is a 2.1. This, folks, is a 2.0. Southernmost one right here, this is a 2.1 again. And we have earthquakes over here. They're also magmatic related. This is a 1.8 here. This is a 0.5 microquake caused by magma beneath the surface. Okay? We don't know how the magma reels up to the north here on the other side of Kilauea, but it does. Okay? But this magma is here at this volcano. Now, there's other things here that we want to tell you about. Okay? First off, okay, we told you about another volcano right here yesterday. Okay? This is Mauna Loa. Today we don't see any earthquakes that USGS wants to tell us about. That does not mean that there was no earthquakes there. It does not mean there's no eruptions that are going to happen. Mauna Loa is recharging. Just a couple of months ago, Mauna Loa erupted for a short time. It's not erupting now, it's recharging. Okay? But we have this earthquake right here. This is on the western slope of Kilauea here. Okay? Western slope of Kilauea. This happens to be a 3.9 earthquake. What is a 3.9 earthquake doing here? Folks, this might be tectonically related to this island. Not everything is magma, however, it could be. It could be. I'm not a scientist, I'm a citizen scientist. Okay, I'm not a paid scientist. Although you guys try to help me with that. And that's wonderful, and I'm glad you do. But folks, this is a 3.9 earthquake. This is important. Yes, further up north here. Further up north, we do have another volcano. It's called Halemaumau Crater. Halemaumau Crater. Or not, I'm sorry. It's not Halemaumau Crater. That's Kilauea. This is, oh, now my brain just went, boop, gone. I can't believe it. Just went, boop, gone. This is Hualalai. This is Hualalai. Okay? Hualalai volcano. And it has been rumbling. It has not erupted in a very, very long time. But it is rumbling. There are earthquakes there caused by magma beneath the volcano. Okay? But it has not erupted. We go over here to Mauna Kea. There is rumbling at Mauna Kea. However, we still don't have a volcanic eruption here. We honestly thought, and we still do, that Mauna Kea could erupt at any time. There's actually more earthquakes at Mauna Kea than Mauna Loa. There always has been. But Mauna Kea has not erupted. Okay? I can show you that another time. Now, something else that we ought to be concerned about, and that's over here in Fern Forest. Okay? This is another earthquake. It's a 3.2. This is in Fern Forest. Why am I concerned? Because this area is also where several of the fissures opened up 3 years ago when Kilauea volcano downloaded all of its lava or magma inside the volcano, and also Pu'o volcano downloaded all of its magma and it disappeared. All of a sudden, we have earthquakes and tremors out here in Fern Forest and going up here to the northeast to Leilani Estates. And that's what we see happening again. This could be a situation where we might have another fissure opened up here. Another fissure here. This is a 3.2 earthquake. It's a small earthquake, but it's still curious why we have this here, near several of the other fissures here in Fern Forest. Now we have one other earthquake up here. This is also considered to be in Fern Forest. Look at where we're talking about. When those fissures opened up, and you can see the ground here still pluming out from lava that has flown out of the eruptive fissures. Okay? When these fissures erupted, they spilled lava all the way down to the sea. And this lava that spilled into the sea was made new land here on the island. New land here on the island. And yet here, right next to one of the fissures, you can see the lava plume here. That's a fissure causing that lava plume. Okay, we have another 1.8 tremor here. Everywhere where you see clouds here, those are lava plumes. Those are distinct lava plumes. And yes, this is an old map, but this is still happening here. These lava plumes are still happening. Okay, so I am just a citizen scientist. But all I'm saying is we need to keep our eyes and ears peeled here on the big island of Hawaii. Okay? Especially over here at Kilauea. Because as you see, there's still earthquakes occurring all around that crater. And we have had Kilauea erupting. Okay? So we need to keep our eyes peeled for this area. Alright? Now let's go back to the United States. No, let's not do that. I'm not finished here on the worldwide area. Okay? We talked to you about China a few minutes ago. Let's go over to Nepal. Nepal. Here's a large 5.2 earthquake that happened in Nepal today. Okay? This was actually 69 kilometers from Jumla, Nepal. Okay? This is in the Himalaya Mountains. Okay? This is in the Himalaya Mountains. This is also the natural craton edge, the edge of the plate in this area. Okay? That's why it hit. Let's go over here to the west. This is another 5.0 earthquake here. USGS has it as a 4.9. It came in as a 5.1. Okay? They downgraded it to 4.9, as they typically do. But like I said, this is a large earthquake over in Iran. To the south here, this is also in Iran. Here's another 4.9, 5.0 earthquake. Okay? Iran got hit to the north and the south. Let's continue to go over towards Turkey. And these are by far not the only earthquakes that are happening here. They're not even talking about even 1/8 of the earthquakes. There's about 200 earthquakes all over this area, and they're not talking about but 3 earthquakes. What's up with that? They're lying to us. They're lying through their teeth. Over here along the Turkey-Syria border, we have another moderate earthquake here. This is a 4.2 earthquake. Now, USGS is saying, oh, there's only 72 earthquakes here. Well, not USGS, but the European agency, saying there's about 72 earthquakes in this area. There's probably a lot more. USGS shows us 1. Okay? 1. Yes, we are getting moderate earthquakes and small earthquakes all over this area. What are they doing? They're wiping people out. People are scared still. The ground is still shaking after a huge earthquake happened. It wasn't just a major earthquake, it was huge. 9.0 to a 10.0 magnitude earthquake. We showed you the seismic analysis of what happened. It was far beyond the 6.8 earthquake or 6.7 earthquake that they said happened here. Far beyond that. Okay? This was at least a 9.0 to 10.0 earthquake. It devastated this region. It still is. Okay? Earthquakes all over here. We go over here further to the west. Still all kinds of earthquakes here in western Turkey. Over here in the Volcanoes Islands here that belong to Greece. These islands just off the coast of western Turkey here. They're called the Volcanoes Islands. Earthquakes happening all over here. Earthquakes happening around Crete, Greece down here. Earthquakes happen all around mainland Greece. About 40 earthquakes here in mainland Greece today. Going over up north to Slovakia. Slovakia is also having earthquakes as well as Romania here. Okay? We go over further east. Okay? We get some earthquakes over here in this region. Croatia, for example, right here had some earthquakes today. Croatia. Now these were just minor earthquakes and tremors, but they're still shaking. Croatia had a 6.8 magnitude earthquake just here about a year ago. They had some real issues. Okay? USGS is not talking about any earthquakes here in Sicily. However, there have been, because we also have Mount Etna erupting here. Down here in the boot of Italy, there are earthquakes here. Up here in the center of Italy near, what's a town called Marcia. Marscha, Marsh, Italy. There are a swarm of earthquakes hitting here. There's small earthquakes and minor earthquakes hitting here in the Alp mountains here, in the Alps here, between Italy, Germany, Australia, Switzerland here. Several earthquakes in this area. Earthquakes over here in France. Not talking about, are they? Oh, heaven forbid. Earthquakes around here, right here. We've seen this happen during the past 3 or 4 days. All over this area. Yet they don't talk about it. Earthquakes over here just east of the Strait of Gibraltar. They're not talking about it. Several earthquakes just north of that in Spain. They're not talking about that either. We told you about Sao Jorge Island in the Azores, out here in the Atlantic Ocean. They're not saying anything about that right here either. They're not saying anything about San Vicente, Azores here. There's several small earthquakes here. Over in the Canary Islands, we've also had a handful of minor tremors here. Nothing big. Okay? We've had earthquakes up here to the north, up here in Iceland, and they're not talking about those either. Heaven forbid we talk about what's going on. Okay? Over here in Puerto Rico, earthquakes continue to hit here. Down here in southwestern Puerto Rico, this is where 2 major earthquakes happened here 3.5 years ago. An 8.0 on December 26th and an 8.4 December 28th. We're still seeing minor tremors and small earthquakes all over this area. These are aftershocks of those major earthquakes. We told you about those the last few days. This one is a 2.5. This one is a 2.2. This one is a 2.8. Okay? Right here, this is a 2.2, Uruguay, Puerto Rico. Over here in the Mona Strait, this has nothing to do with Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. This is in the Mona Strait. USGS has it as 2.7 magnitude earthquake, minor earthquake, 24 kilometers west-northwest of Rincon, Puerto Rico. Why not identify it where it is? It's in the Mona Strait. Now this earthquake up north, we got 2 earthquakes here I want to talk about. These 2 earthquakes here, the one to the east of this and this one. This is a 3.0 earthquake, this one to the east. This is a 3.2. What is that earthquake fault that's just north of there? It's called the Cayman Ridge. The Cayman Ridge originates over just south in Guatemala. It runs all the way over here and drops earthquakes. Drops earthquakes throughout this region. That's what you see here. Dropped earthquakes over by, and this one to the east here, I've illuminated here. This is over by, well, it's just northwest of U.S. Virgin Islands. This one here is just north of Puerto Rico. Not a big deal. This one actually, you know, let me tell you something. USGS has this as a 3.9 and they have it is in the Mona Passage. No, it is not in the Mona Passage. It's up here in the northwest area of Puerto Rico, out here in the Caribbean Ocean. Okay, this tells you where USGS has their heads, up their butts. Yes, it's on the outskirts of the Mona Passage, but it's way north. It has nothing to do with the Mona Passage. You know, I swear, this agency has a brain on backwards. They just do. Now, we have some minor earthquakes up here in Oklahoma. We have this one up here that just happened. This one is Kearney, Oklahoma. And these are oil and gas earthquakes. Oil and gas earthquakes. That's a 1.8. This is a 1.4. Oil and gas earthquakes in Oklahoma. This one here is in Snyder, Texas, just outside of actually Snyder, Texas. This is a 3.6 earthquake. Excuse me, not 3.6, 2.6. My brain's out backwards as well. 2.6 earthquake near Snyder, Texas today. This is oil and gas. Further south here is in Big Wells, Texas. They call it Big Wells because this is oil and gas also. Over here in southwestern Texas, we have a swarm of earthquakes here. Oil and gas quakes over here. That's been happening for a very long time. Toyah, Texas area, right here. We go further west over here. They call this White City, New Mexico. It has nothing to do with New Mexico. This is southwestern Texas. Okay, this is the 2.4 there. Swarms of earthquakes hitting this area. Oil and gas quakes. Okay? We go back over to California, we see the same thing that was going on yesterday. It's still happening today. Earthquakes down here in Southern California. This one I just highlighted here, just read, just happened. This is near Ocotillo Wells. Ocotillo Wells. Okay? This one over here, Calipatria area. Calipatria. This is a 1.1 tremor. This one here is also 1.0 tremor. What did I show you last night with Calipatria? Over 200 earthquakes here. And USGS wants to tell us there's only 2 tremors. I showed you over 200 earthquakes and tremors here. Again, USGS lying to us. Outright lying to us. Oh, nothing's going on. Nothing at all is going on. Let me show you a couple more earthquakes and then we'll go north here. This is in Julian, California. This is in eastern San Diego County in Julian. This is a forested area here. Okay? Apples. They grow apples here in Julian. You can have the best apple pie anywhere in Julian, California. They grow the apples and they make the pies. You can have the best hot cider there as well. Hot apple cider and apple pie. What a blessing. I've had it. It's wonderful. Now north of there, okay? North of Julian. I ought to get paid by Julian, okay? Here's another earthquake in Julian. It's a 1.6 tremor. We go further north here, okay? I love this. Both of those Julian quakes and this one that's at Palomar Observatory. You can't make this up. These 3 earthquakes are on the Elsinore Fault here. The Elsinore Fault. Those 2 earthquakes in eastern San Diego County, and this one here in northeastern San Diego County at Palomar Observatory. It's unreal. This one here is a 0.2 microquake at the observatory. Okay? Unreal. We go further north, Anza Gap. This is Anza Borrego Desert. Okay? The Anza Gap area. This is the Anza Borrego Desert State Park, northeast San Diego County. Okay? We go north here. This is still the Anza Gap. Out here. All this area here. These are tremors, guys. Nothing more than tremors. Over here is San Jacinto. San Jacinto. This is a mountain, San Jacinto. There's also a town called San Jacinto at the bottom of the mountain. Okay? San Jacinto Mountain, I've hiked to the top of that mountain. Beautiful, beautiful area. Absolutely stunning area. But, folks, guess what? There just happens to be a fault here. The San Jacinto Fault, and you can see it here. The San Jacinto Fault runs down on right past the San Andreas Fault, but in this case, this fault runs down the western side of the Salton Sea. Runs down the western side of the Salton Sea. That's where you see these earthquakes here. This is a 1.4 near Ocotillo Wells here. And you can see this other earthquake here. Also, Ocotillo Wells, a 3.1 earthquake. on the San Jacinto Fault. This earthquake fault here, that is the San Andreas. It runs from northern California all the way down here, all the way through northern Mexico, all the way down into the Gulf of California. All the way down here. I'm sorry, I pulled too far out. All the way down here through the Gulf of California and all the way down the coast of Mexico. Okay? And there's earthquakes all up and down this area. USGS says nothing about it. Go figure. But you can see there are earthquakes here in Southern California. They've been raising havoc all day long. And there's been other bigger earthquakes here USGS has said nothing about. Okay? Nothing. Not a dadgum thing. This earthquake over here on the western side of the San Francisco Bay, this is in Pacifica, California. Okay? This is on the San Andreas Fault. Okay? The western side of the San Francisco Bay, Pacifica. Okay? San Andreas Fault. On the eastern side here, this is different. Right up here, this is between the Hayward and the Calaveras Fault. This is Ramon, California. San Ramon, California. Okay? This is a 1.2 tremor. We go further south here. This is right between the Hayward and the Calaveras Fault here. It's on the eastern side of the Hayward. If I can get it to eliminate here. Oh, they did it to me again. Dad frickin' gummit. Just a second. Give me just a second. They didn't used to do this to me. But now I've had to come through here and figure out what they're doing and bypass what they're doing and get them back. Okay? It's sad that I have to jump through hoops just to show you what's going on. Okay, let me put it back up here. Bingo, I got it back. Okay, this one here. This is just between the Hayward and the Calaveras here. This is a 2.2. Okay, Sunol, California. We drop further south, don't we? Right here, Alum Rock. Alum Rock, 1.0 tremor. 1.5 here in 7 trees. Okay, now folks, this is probably one of the most dangerous areas we could have here. This is right next to both those faults, the Calaveras and the Hayward. One of the most dangerous areas. Okay, 1.5 in 7 trees, and just a 1.0 over here in Sunol Rock. Okay, or Alum Rock, I'm sorry, Alum Rock. We drop further south. Okay, this is more on the Hayward. This is right at the apex of the Hayward and the Calaveras. This is 0.9 near Gilroy, California. Gilroy, California. Gilroy has been having a lot of earthquakes as of late. A lot of earthquakes. Okay? We're going to monitor Gilroy very closely. Further south here is the Pinnacles. This is an oil and gas area on the San Andreas Fault. That's why we have earthquakes here. Okay? This is a 1.7. Further south over here is also the Pinnacles of 1.4. And this right here, this is also a 2.0 at the Pinnacles. Now we have no earthquakes here at all the way down here past past earthquake capital California. The names, there's been so much going on, I forgot half of what I want to tell you. But anyway, oh, that's stupid. I can't remember what the name of this town was. Anyway, it's earthquake capital California. We see no earthquakes here at all. I don't believe that. I believe if I really delved into it, we could find tremors there, at least. Because again, USGS doesn't want to tell us. Plain and simple. Now, I'm going to go north here. Okay? I'm going to go north. We don't have any earthquakes shown here in the San Andreas area, the Gorda Escarpment, or the Cascadia Subduction Zone. None here in the south area. Okay? This is Hydesville. This is a 2.1 magnitude earthquake. This is north of Ferndale, California. This is probably an aftershock of the 8.0 earthquake that hit here several months ago. It was not a 6.4 like USGS wanted us to believe. At the time I showed you the evidence that it was a much larger earthquake. A much larger earthquake. North and east of there, this is Willow Creek. Willow Creek has also had some earthquakes here. This is a 2.5. Okay, as you can see here, USGS is reporting 2 earthquakes here. One in Oregon and one in Washington. I want to show you this because they're telling us this is, okay, this is Mount Rainier here. Okay, this is a 0.3. They say it's 21 kilometers east-northeast of Ashford. It's at Mount Rainier. It's not near Ashford at all. This is Mount Rainier, a major volcano here in Washington. And it's not the only tremor here at all. There are other tremors here as well. They're just not telling us about it. Okay? One here in Oregon. And they've taken it down. Dad blast it. There was another earthquake, and I'm going to show you where it is anyway, because I think it needs to be talked about. Okay? There was another earthquake right here. It was a tremor, a 1.5 tremor. USGS said it was an explosion. USGS said it was an explosion, and it was about 1/3 of a mile deep. It was a 0.3 tenths of a mile deep. Okay, it was not an explosion. It was not a combustus carnivorous earthquake. I mean combustus carnivorous tree, exploding tree. It wasn't that. Okay, it was a tremor. It was a tremor. USGS hiding it again. Okay, right before I came on the air, I checked it. I'm going, oh goody, they haven't hidden the explosion. Well, yes, they have. Okay, they do it. Now, I have not seen any earthquakes or tremor activity that's really reportable. Yes, it's all reportable. It is. But there's nothing really here to talk about in Cascadia other than normal seismic activity at the volcanoes. Normal. Normal. Nothing outlandish at all. Going up here to the north, okay? This is Princeton, Canada. This happens to be a quarry blast in Princeton, Canada. They've been having a lot here. Of course, there are quarries here. They're reporting this today as an explosion, but guess what? That's what they do sometimes. But there's a quarry here. There just happens to be a quarry. And I don't believe that this earthquake is much more than 2 or 3 miles from the quarry. So yes, this is probably a quarry blast here in Princeton, Canada, British Columbia, Canada. Okay, so that's what's going on. Now, there's some things I want to discuss with you tonight, and I don't have much more than a half hour or so to do it. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about any earthquakes or tremors that we talked about tonight? Okay? Yes, I didn't touch on Alaska. There's several earthquakes down in the Gulf of Alaska. There's also one up north, and that one up north is at a volcano. And it's just barely a 2.4 magnitude earthquake here. Shukna, Alaska. Okay? Shukna, Alaska. Any questions? Nadine snuck up on Lamb as a Light? Woo! How about that? Snuck up on Lamb as a Light. Ah, yeah. And Rob, my friend, is back. My friend Rob from Arizona went in for some medical tests yesterday, and he was not looking forward to those, and we are glad that he is back, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, not wealthy, but wise. How about that? My buddy Rob is back. That's great. We appreciate all of you here tonight. Okay, since you don't have any questions, I'm going to continue with my presentation on emergency preparedness planning. Okay? I've been wanting to talk to you about this, and I'm going to finish it tonight. Emergency preparedness planning is probably one of the most important things that you could do prior to any kind of disaster. And it doesn't matter what kind of disaster it is, and we're going to talk about different types of disasters and emergencies that could happen tonight. Okay? But you're wanting to write an emergency plan. This is crucial to be able to get you through the disaster and come out the other side. It's called disaster or emergency management mitigation. Okay? Developing an emergency preparedness plan. What I want to refer to as an emergency preparedness program. Okay? Now, the first thing I want to talk about, and this could be just a husband and wife or two neighbors, if you want to involve somebody that is just exactly like you are, that is concerned about what is going on with you in your neighborhood. Okay? I'm talking about establishing an emergency operations center. It could be a husband and wife, a boyfriend and girlfriend, but establishing your own emergency operations center. Why do we want to call it that? Because you are the nucleus of your team. You're the nucleus of the team. That's why we want an emergency operations center. Okay? One person saddled with these responsibilities, the other person saddled with these responsibilities. And you can even, if your children are older, you can settle them with responsibilities themselves. Each person being a representative to the Emergency Management Center, Emergency Preparedness Center, or the Emergency Management Team. You call it what you want. But it's preparing an operations center. Okay? Opening up an operations center. Okay? Now, when an emergency happens, you usually have an emergency response team. That emergency response team could be fire, it could be police, it could be paramedics, it could be search and rescue teams, it could be almost anyone. Okay? But you're going to have an emergency response from somebody. Now, the normal emergency response teams that I've just talked about may not be able to show up for days, if not weeks, if it's at a major disaster, because they may have bigger things that they have to address. And if your situation is a smaller priority, you may not see emergency crews yourself for days or weeks. Okay? That is a promise. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about emergency response teams? You and your family are an emergency response team. You and your neighbors are a larger emergency response team. You're going to respond to your disaster, whether it's an earthquake or whatever it is. You're going to respond in a big way. You're going to help yourselves get through the crisis. You're going to help yourselves get through the crisis. Whether it's planning what to do, where are you going to go? Check on other neighbors? Good idea. But don't everybody leave at the same time. Don't everybody leave, period. Always have somebody there at the operations center, whether it's your house or a neighbor's house or out in your yard, because your homes cannot be lived in at this time. The homes may not be habitable because of an earthquake or a gas or water leak. So you may have to be camping out in your yard. Okay? So you have your own emergency response team, checking on your neighbors. You're going to want to do that. Okay? Number 4, this is essential for your emergency preparedness plan. We've talked about this before. Having equipment and supplies. Equipment and supplies are absolutely necessary to be able to do anything during and after an emergency. Now, something else that you ought to consider, and you need to really consider this. This is necessary as well. Compile before the emergency, compile an emergency phone list, an emergency phone tree. Okay? What does this comprise of? Members of your own family. Make sure you have telephone numbers to every member of your family. Second, close neighbors and friends. Third, hospitals and doctors and schools. Fourth, police and paramedics and fire department, doctors and nurses. Okay? In case you have to reach out for help. Also, something else. Don't ever forget this. An out-of-state contact. An out-of-state contact. When phone service goes down, you may not have access to the phone people or people in your local neighborhood, your local area. But you do have access to out-of-state people, family members and close friends. You want this phone tree so each member of your family can have a resource to contact out of your local area so you can reunite at some point during the emergency. Okay? But again, phone numbers locally might be blocked or you can't get access to them. But you might be able to access an out-of-state contact whereby that out-of-state contact passes information between family members. So don't forget that. Emergency phone numbers, and every member of your family should have access to those phone numbers, even your youngest children. Okay? And in regards to emergency phone numbers, I'm sorry, consider having access to their schools. Make sure school telephone numbers are included. The principal's office, the guidance counselors. Okay? Phone numbers to teachers if necessary. To find out what your family is doing, what your children are doing. You can contact your schools before the disaster happens, before the emergency happens. Why? Sorry about that, guys. Because schools house your children during the day, don't they? Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to do that. Had no idea it was going to happen. Your children are at school during the day, and you want to have access to them, too. Sorry. Before the emergency happens, you're going to want to visit your children's schools. Talk to the principals. Talk to the guidance counselors. And your teachers. Find out what that school has in the form of an emergency plan. What they intend to do with your student, your child. What they intend to do. That way you'll be able to be reunited with your child after the disaster happens. Become very acquainted with your child's school's emergency plan. In fact, have your school give you a copy of that plan. And you make plans with that school to retrieve and reunite with your child after the emergencies hit. Okay? Now, as a parent, as a neighbor, as a part of your emergency plan in your neighborhood, what are your responsibilities? Each member of your emergency team will have responsibilities. Think about it. Think about what each of you will do, and delegate the responsibility so not one person has everything. Don't settle everything on one person. It will become so burdensome that that person probably won't be able to do anything, or it won't be good at doing just one thing. Make sure each person has responsibilities, and those people should have the opportunity and the ability to do it. They should have the ability to accomplish the task that's at hand. Okay? Next, one of your priorities after a disaster or an emergency has happened, you want to think about your first hour checklist. What do you want to accomplish during the first hour after the emergency happens? Your first hour checklist. What to do and what you want to accomplish during the first hour. And after that, things will become very plain. You'll be able to understand everything going on. But your first hour checklist is going to be critical. Also, between now and the emergency, you're going to want to develop an emergency incident action command plan. An incident action plan. What do you want to accomplish at each individual incident? This is where you break down the emergency on what the emergency is. Whether it's an earthquake, whether it's a ceiling falling down, whether it's a tornado that's taken apart your home or your school building, or there's been a shooting there. You want to develop an incident action plan on what you and your family are going to do. You, your family, and your neighbors are going to do. And again, have people take responsibility. Each person will be responsible for anything. And you're going to want to be able to get this plan into action. Now, you may have to divide responsibilities literally. Somebody that's in charge of logistics, somebody that might be able to drive, whether it's a golf cart, a motorcycle, a bicycle, a car, whatever it is. They might have to involve operating a tractor to help remove debris to open up streets. It might have to have somebody that has medical experience in your neighborhood, whether it be a nurse or a doctor. Since they are in the neighborhood, they may or may not be able to get to the facility where they work. They're going to become invaluable to your emergency plan, okay, to help assess injuries of people involved in your neighborhood. If you have a nurse or even a person that has any kind of medical experience in your family, if it's just involving your family, having someone that's in charge of medical things, okay? These are people that are going to be involved with your resources. They're going to become invaluable. One of the things I also had that somebody that's in charge of logistics is, what do you have in your neighborhood? You can pass around a list of things that each of your neighbors might have, or ask your neighbors what kinds of things that they have, whether it's lawnmowers, whether it's ladders, whether it's tractors, what kind of tractor they have. Find out. In case of an emergency, you might have to call on that person to help. Somebody has gotten onto a roof and can't get down. Somebody has to be rescued out of an apartment. You need to be able to get to those people, so you can put together a resource list. It's all part of the incident action plan. You're going to do this, this, and this. Okay? Then, how are you going to get through your emergency? You need to develop a mitigation plan, a command structure. a disaster command structure. What are you going to get? What do you need to do to get through your emergency and come out the other side? How long is it going to take to get to the other side of the emergency where it's over? Where you can truly recover from the emergency, whatever it might be. It might take a long time, given an earthquake or an explosion. And yes, it could be an explosion. It could become a gas leak, and it goes boom. I've seen it happen. We've even been talked about it on the show during this year. There have been explosions. Last year we talked about a lot of explosions all over the country. Most at food supply places, distribution centers, farms. All of a sudden, these plants go boom. They're gone. Where are we going to get our food? Okay? How about an emergency notification and response? Okay? In an emergency, who are you going to notify? Who's going to notify you? Make sure you have an emergency notification and response list. Put together an emergency notification and response list. Okay? Number 12, emergency procedures. What are you going to do and when are you going to do it? Come up with an emergency procedures list as well. Now, all of this might sound overwhelming, but this is something that all of you need to do. Each and every one of us. Okay? Also, on your emergency preparedness planning, you need to think about evacuations. Evacuations. Whether you have to get somebody out of their home. You got to get out of your neighborhood. Whether it's fire, whatever it is. You got to leave your neighborhood. You got to bug out. We've talked about it before. Evacuations. Do you have an evacuation route? Do you have 2 or 3 evacuation routes like we've talked about? You need to have these things written down on a map. Take a marker and mark several evacuation routes to places that you could go to. Destinations where you could go to. Circle those areas on the map. And then plan evacuation routes, that one, and that one. Mark it out on your map. Not so you can't see the streets, but mark it lightly in color so you know exactly where you're going. Stay off of major roadways. Use surface streets. Use surface streets. Do not operate on major arteries. Stay off the highways. Why am I saying this? I've said it a dozen times if I said it once. You might come on a roadblock. Whether it's a guard, whether it's police, whether it's anybody. You don't want to be stopped for any reason. The sooner you get to your or your location, the better. Your destination. The sooner you get to your destination, the better. So avoid major arteries, avoid highways. Okay? Say you have an emergency alarm at your home and you are at your work. You have to respond to an alarm. What are you going to do? Think about responding to alarms. Your responsibility in responding to alarms. Whether it's a fire alarm at your home, a fire alarm or burglary at your business. What are you going to do? Okay? Think about responding to alarms. This is serious. We've talked about this at least a dozen or two dozen times. Okay? How about if you have missing children or missing family members? Think about what you're going to do to recover those people. To get back in touch and have those people with you. Consider missing children or missing family members. It's an easy thing to have happen. Children, elderly parents, elderly brothers and sisters that might wander off during or after a disaster. They lose contact with reality sometimes. That could happen to any of us. Think what you're going to do to recover your missing children or your family members. Okay? It's important. Something else here. We're halfway through this list. Okay? Hurricane Heather says never leave anyone behind. That's exactly it. Never leave anyone behind. Don Patoka says run to the issue. Don't hesitate, run. It could cost somebody's life if you hesitate. Okay? This is absolutely necessary. I see many of you are putting suggestions here. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you are. Okay? How about power? Say the power goes out, the grid goes down. It's happening a lot where I live. It's happening a lot. Last year, I think it happened 3 or 4 times where we lost power for anywhere from an hour to 3 or 4 hours. One time it was all night long. Power goes out. What are you going to do? We should all have flashlights. We should all have flashlights. I have 4 flashlights right here on my desk. There are 3 flashlights in my bedroom. There are 3 flashlights downstairs, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, and one near the front door. I probably ought to have a flashlight out in my storage room because it's right off my patio. That way, if the power went out, there's a flashlight there. Think about power. A generator, for example. Do you have a solar generator? Do you have a gas-powered generator? Do you have a checklist of things that you want to power and when you want to power them off or when you want to power them on, down or on? When do you want to turn those appliances on? When do you want to turn them off to save electricity from your generator? Of course, you're going to want to keep your food cold, your refrigerator and or your freezer. Think about that. Power, generator, flashlights. Okay? How about in case of a fire? What will you do in case of a fire? Each of these things should be noted, and sometimes in the event of a fire should be one specific action plan. What are you going to do? Do you have an evacuation plan from your house? How every person in every room can get out of the house safely and be reunited on the outside of the house. In case of fire, write that down as well. Natural disasters. There are a lot of natural disasters happening literally every day here in the United States and around the world. We have fires. There's already been some wildland fires here in the United States and over in Europe. Okay? Natural disasters. How about flooding? With the melting snow that we've had here in the United States and all over the world, it's caused flooding, hasn't it? It's caused landslides. It's caused avalanches. What are you going to do? How are you going to address those things in your area? What are your resources that you have in your area? Wildland fires. What are you going to do if a wildland fire breaks out in your neck of the woods? How close are you going to let it get before you evacuate your home? If you even think that your home might become an area that will be a place you don't even want to be in, you need to really seek an evacuation route or several evacuation routes. You need to bug out. Do you have your emergency supplies near a door where you can get to them to load into your car and get out of Dodge? If not, you better plan that. Your food, your emergency supplies, pictures, family pictures especially that are important to you, your computers, electronic gear, your family members. What do you need? Consider a wildland fire. Something else. How about high winds and tornadoes? We've already seen numerous tornadoes around the country and around the world. High winds and tornadoes. It doesn't have to be a tornado. It could be a straight line wind. We've seen those. I saw those when we lived in Denver. Straight line winds coming off the Front Range, coming off the Rocky Mountains. Literally straight line winds coming out in off the mountains. And they're powerful winds. 100+ mile-an-hour winds. I've seen it. I've seen these winds take trash cans and toss them 2 or 3 blocks away. I've seen furniture, patio furniture, all over the earth. I've seen patio furniture tossed into plate glass windows. What are you going to do? High winds and tornadoes. The other night when we had tornadoes hitting Texas and down into Arkansas and Louisiana, what were we telling you to do? Get in the center of your house away from windows. And when you can, grab a mattress out of one of the bedrooms and put the mattress on top of you to protect from flying debris that might hit you and hurt you or kill you. Pull the mattress in on top of you. And don't forget your kids, and I'm talking not just the 2-legged kids, but the 4-legged kids as well. Okay? Landslides. We're seeing landslides a lot. With the melting snow and the rain, we're seeing landslides devastate our local areas. Are you in an area where you're going to be affected by landslides? Consider a plan on what you're going to deal with that, how you're going to deal with it. Any kind of man-made disasters. What things could happen that men could do to screw your life up? Think about it. You need to have a plan for each one of these things, like I've told you. Each one of these emergencies are a disaster to you and your family. This could also lose the idea of losing a job. What are you going to do? Man-made disasters. Think of an active shooter. Think about an active shooter. What are you going to do? How are you going to react? You have someone breaking into your house in the middle of the night or the middle of the day. He or she's got a gun. What are you going to do? How are you going to react? Think about how you're going to do it. What are you going to do if that person gets within 15 feet of you or 25 feet of you? What are you going to do? Are you going to argue with him? Are you going to try to wrestle him for his gun? He's going to go, and you're going to go away. Permanently. You're not going to want to do that. Think about what you're going to do. This is reality, guys. It's happening every day in our societies. It doesn't matter whether we're in England. It doesn't matter whether we're in Australia. It doesn't matter whether we're in the United States or Canada. It's happening everywhere, every day, unfortunately. BOMB threats. BOMB threats. What are we going to do? This also happens a lot. I know of at least 3 schools that have had those in the last few days, multiple times. Okay? Something else that you should consider. Talk with your local emergency preparedness people, your police and fire. Put together guidelines for you and your family during civil disturbances. i.e. rioters and protesters, Antifa, and other stupid people who will try to mess up your lives? What are your guidelines going to be? Are you going to get involved, or are you going to leave town? Are you going to stay away from what is going on? Plan your strategies here. Guidelines for civil disturbance and procedures. What are you going to do? Let's talk about suspicious packages. Suspicious packages show up at our homes, our businesses. They show up at the downtown city buildings. They show up everywhere. What is going to happen when you stumble over a suspicious package at a mall or any kind of shopping center? Walmart. How about if a suspicious package is delivered to you? Do you want to pick it up? Do you want to stay away from it? Do you want to open it? Why would you open it? Consider what you're going to do if you have a suspicious package. Are you going to immediately call police? I would. And I would tell them, you better bring the fire department here. You never know what happens. Tell them there's a suspicious package and tell them exactly what's going on. How about unintended bang-bangs? Unattended firearms. What would happen if you find an unattended firearm? Whose could it be? Your wife's, your husband's, your girlfriend, your neighbors, your friends? What are you going to do? What if it's left there by a bad guy and all of a sudden you find it? What kinds of questions are you going to ask? Think about this. Write all this stuff down. You need to have all this information. Why? Because then you have a plan on what you're going to do to address individual situations. That's why I'm spelling it out. How about crisis intervention? This could happen to each and every one of us. A family member with drugs. Crisis intervention. A family member that's trying to take their life. Crisis intervention. A family member that's strung out and it's got something sharp that can do damage to them or us. What are you going to do? Crisis intervention. Do you have counselors available? Are you a counselor yourself? Do you have any experience? Crisis intervention. Medical emergencies we talked about a little bit ago. Do you have CPR training? Do you have first aid training? If not, get it. That will become invaluable to you during an emergency situation. Say your husband, your wife, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or child, a classmate, has a medical emergency. What are you going to do? Have you put together a good first aid kit where you can treat cuts and burns or broken bones to save somebody's life, to stop bleeding? Do you have things in your first aid kit that could help you in doing all of this and more? Think about it. You need to get it. Something that most people forget: security procedures. What are you going to do if? Security procedures. How are you going to secure your house? What are you going to do if somebody bad happens to knock on your door or try to force entry to your home? Security procedures. Think about it. How about accidents, fatalities, injuries, illnesses? Have you thought anything about what you're going to do if someone has an accident that could be very harmful to them, could kill somebody or injure them? Or maybe it's an illness, diabetes, cancer. It could be anything, literally. MS. Do you know how to deal with those things, those medical emergencies? Somebody stops breathing. Somebody develops a large cut on their arm or their foot or their leg, their body. How can you stop bleeding? Accidents, injuries, fatalities, and illnesses. Pneumonia, coughing, bronchitis, infections. Think about how you are going to deal with this. The next two are things that I hate even to talk about. They're things that are very hard to deal with. The next one is called sexual assault or sexual battery. What are you going to do if? What are you going to do when it happens? How are you going to handle it? Who are you going to talk to? Are you going to call the police? Are you going to call the fire department? Are you going to call paramedics? Are you going to call a counselor? Are you going to call a best friend to talk about it? To work through your event? Yes, it could happen. It could happen to you, your spouse, or your children, or your neighbors. Know what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. The last thing on this list is terrorism. We've also seen this in reality. It happens every day throughout our society, our towns. There's terrorism in every town throughout this country and throughout the world. It's happening in London. It's happening in Londonderry, Ireland. It's happening in Brussels. It's happening in Paris. It's happening in Morganton, North Carolina. In Charlotte, North Carolina. It's happening in Salt Lake City. It's happening in Idaho Falls, Idaho. It's happening in Boise. It's happening in Butte, Montana. It's happening in San Diego, Los Angeles. It's happening in Tres Pinos, California. It's happening in Portland. It's happening in every town throughout the country. It's happening over near where Barry Prince lives, in Terrace, California, or Canada. It's happening all over Canada, Saskatchewan, Canada, Quebec. It's happening everywhere. What are we going to do if it happens near us? What is our plan? This is exactly why that I wanted to talk about emergency planning, because I knew most people had not even considered what we've been talking about tonight. Not having an emergency plan could cost us our lives, or cost our family members their life, or our dear neighbor, our friend, a loved one. What are we going to do? I've been dealing with this for most of my life. I had to do an emergency preparedness plan when I was a cop. Day-to-day events. Something might happen to me when I got home at night. What would happen when something happened to my kids, and it did? What happens when your dear friend gets hurt, kidnapped, lost? What's going to happen? You need to plan for every one of these events and more. This is what we call emergency planning. Emergency preparedness plan. Know what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Whether you're going to evacuate or you're going to shelter in place. How are you going to handle any one individual emergency? Make sure you plan for it. And like I said, it may take putting it in a binder. my own emergency binder right here. Right here. It says right here, disaster emergency preparedness. Are you ready? No food deliveries, no phone, no power, no emergency help. What are you going to do? This is my binder, guys. Look, I've got all these things in plastic. Yes, it's taking me forever to put stuff together, but I continually add to this plan. I know exactly where I'm going with this plan, and you should do the same thing as well. Don't forget to go through each and every one of these items. This is going to become very important in your lives. Okay? Wolfman says having dogs is very important. I agree. I absolutely agree with it. Okay? I absolutely agree. Okay? Texas lady, this guy's on some kind of drugs. Cops know of him and will be watching, they said. Yes, they said. But what happens when the cops disappear? What happens? I'm just saying. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Each and every one of us has a handicap, a shortcoming, a hardship. The real challenge is realizing that all of us can be a bright light, an example, and do something. Only the very few can do everything. That's not me. Yes, I have a plan for almost anything and everything that can happen. That's because I've been working on this forever. But now, folks, we may not be able to be on the air much longer. What happens if YouTube takes us down again? Yes, I will go to Rumble. You can count on me going to Rumble. I will go to Rumble. Rumble won't take me down. But what happens to these programs that I've given you? I'll have to do them all over again on Rumble. No problem. Folks, I am trying to help you here. Make sure you've taken notes on what we've talked about tonight. I put it in the title of this program tonight. That's why it's important. Make sure you have access to this program tonight. Please, guys, this is for all of you and your family members and your friends. Tell everybody about this program, how valuable it is. Ask them to come and ask them to come and view this program. Show it to them. That's even better. Show them this program and how valuable it is. I have given you information that's taken me years to put together. Okay? And I've gotten paid over the years to talk about this and to show people these plans. Every time I go to a business and write an emergency preparedness plan, I get paid anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to put together a preparedness plan for a business. I've done it for churches and haven't gotten paid a dime because I do it for churches. I do it for churches. I have and always will. I've helped neighborhoods. Yes, neighborhoods have gotten together and paid me to help them come up with a plan for their neighborhoods. Even cities and towns have brought me in to consult with them. Emergency managers, mayors, city councilmen, town council people, various parts of their city or county infrastructures. I've now given you that information, guys. I want to make sure you have it, because each and every one of us is going to face an emergency, and it's probably going to happen very, very soon. Last week, I believe it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, Tucker Carlson said it could happen within the week to 2 weeks. It could happen sooner. It could happen sooner. Tomorrow night, I'm going to talk about another plan. It's called Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2030. You need to take notes. Tomorrow night is Emergency Preparedness Friday. You need to take notes. I'm getting into the nitty-gritty, and I want you to be ready. This is serious. This is fourth and goal, and there's nothing else. We must win this game, because if we don't, we're toast. Okay? I'm telling you, we have to win this game. We do not have a choice. We have to win this game. Now, folks, as I've been doing for quite some time, I want to leave you with a thought. And I believe this is important. Okay? I want to I want to start over here in Luke. This is Luke chapter 9. Okay? Luke chapter 9, starting in verse 26. For whosoever shall be ashamed of me and of my words, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he shall come in his own glory and in his Father's of the holy and with holy angels. But I tell you of a truth, there shall be some standing here, which shall not taste of death, till they see the kingdom of God. And it came to pass about 8 days after these sayings, he took Peter and John and James, and went up into a mountain to pray. And as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistening. And behold, there he talked with him 2 men, which were Moses and Elias, who appeared in glory, and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem. But Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were awake, they saw his glory, and the 2 men that stood with him. And it came to pass, as they departed from him, Peter said unto Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. And let us make 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias, not knowing what he said. While he thus spake, there came a cloud and overshadowed them. And they feared as they entered into the cloud. And there came a voice out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. And when the voice was past, Jesus was found alone. And they kept it close and told no man in those days any of those things which they had seen. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, it is good for us to be here. It is good for us to be here. Brothers and sisters, we have now given each and every one of us a goal, a place to be. We have set a standard here tonight. I hope and pray that each one of us will take this emergency preparedness plan and make it work for you. Make it work for you, your family, and your neighborhood, and your loved ones. Share it far and wide. Make sure everyone you know hears about this program tonight. Your family, your extended family, your neighbors, your friends, your social media contacts, and even the people you work with. Share it far and wide. And while you do that, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Also, before I leave tonight, please Please make sure you're subscribed. YouTube unsubscribes people all the time. 25% of the people that watch this program are not subscribed. Please subscribe. You need this program. You need this program. Please subscribe. When you do that, click on that little bell. The bell that's in a circle. That is a notification bell. Click on that bell and there will be a drop-down menu come up of 3 items. Click on all. Click on the word ALL. That should get you notified when we come on the air. Sometime between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. On Sundays we do a Sunday school called Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. That happens at Sunday just about 12 noon. I think we've only missed 2 or 3 Sundays in 4 years that we've been doing this. Or 3 years that we've been doing this. We don't opt to miss unless I'm really ill and can't get up out of my bed. But folks, we are here for you. This is not for me. This is for you. Yes, I would love to get paid for it again. But folks, I know that you guys will help me. I know that all of you will help me too. I have two PayPal locations just below this video in the program description. I have a Venmo location as well. You also have my address, P.O. Box 422, Valdese, North Carolina. Valdese, North Carolina. Zip code is 28690. You know where I am. You can send cards and letters. You can put support inside the cards of the letters. Make sure nobody sees it from the outside. People do that all the time. That's how you can support me. PayPal, Venmo, or send it in the mail. I would really appreciate it. Now guys, I've given you this to help you. Please let it be a foundation to help you prepare for emergencies and disasters in your own life. We talk about emergencies and disasters every day. This is serious. It's goal time. Now, I love you, and I want you to have the best of everything. Okay? Things are building. The crisis in the world is building, and it's about to come toppling down. Get prepared. Get prepared and do it now. We do not have any more time. Be prepared. I love you and I care about each and every one of you. That's why we did what we did tonight. I will always have your back. Always. Now and forever, I will always have your back. Please, folks, take advantage of this. Watch it. Watch it, watch it, watch it. Don't come to these programs and think you can be in and out of here in 10 minutes. Watch these programs from beginning to end. The longer you watch it, the more information you're going to have that will be benefiting you. We're going to talk specifics about preparedness in the future, starting tomorrow night. So be here for that. Be here for that tomorrow evening. I ask the Lord to bless you in every way possible. I love you. May God be with you. May God bless you. May God hold you in the palms of His hands. God be with you till we meet again. We will see you tonight, or actually we'll see you tomorrow night unless something else happens and we need to come on the air to tell you about it. And if that's the case, as soon as we get that information, we will come on the air. We've done it before, all hours of the day and night. Until tomorrow, guys, may peace be with you, this day and always. God be with you till we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love.